In this video, I'll demonstrate how to do some basic derivations using the 5 rules of inference I've listed over here. When you're just getting started, it's probably a good idea to have these rules of inference, these basic ones, handy so you can refer to it as you're trying to do some basic derivations. Basic derivations, like the ones I'm going to demonstrate, are a skill that you'll need to be able to do logical proofs. So derivations are part of a logical proof, and then the first step towards that. In a logical proof, what you'll be given is a set of premises and then a conclusion that you'll have to do a series of derivations for to get to that conclusion from those basic premises. So it's good to be familiar with the 5 rules of inference and to understand what's going on with these rules of inference and why we can use them to do derivations and proofs. Each of these rules of inference refer to a valid form. So a disjunctive syllogism is a valid form. In the previous units using the truth tables, we showed how to evaluate arguments to determine whether or not they're valid. These are valid forms, and we could prove that using a truth table. And for each of these arguments, we could, if we wanted to, show that for each argument, there's not going to be any row of the truth table that has all true premises and a false conclusion. Another way to phrase that is that given, for example, the disjunctive syllogism, given P or Q for the first premise, and tilde P, the negated P, it logically follows that Q is true. So when we start doing basic derivations, we need to be familiar with these different forms. So I'll leave them over here to the side here so we can see how they play out in these derivations. So let's take a look on over here what we've got. Lines 1, 2, and 3 are premises. So we can assume that these are true. And so the question becomes, what can be logically derived from the given premises 1 through 3? So we've got premise 1 is P, premise 2, if P then Q, and premise 3 is tilde R, or the negation of R, or it's not the case of R. Well, we could tell right away we've got a conditional claim. So it's possible that we could either be dealing with a modus ponens or a modus tollens. The modus ponens works when you have the conditional and then you have the antecedent given. And that's what we have here in 1 and 2. Remember, since this is about logical form, the order of the premises don't matter. So it would still be a modus ponens if we had P as our first premise and then the conditional if P then Q is the second premise. It's still going to be the case that Q is necessarily true following from those two premises. So that's what's going on here. So on line 4, this is where we're going to answer the question, what can be logically derived from the given 3 premises? Now, you'll notice that I didn't mention anything about premise 3. Really, there's nothing that can be done with this. It has no relation to premise 1 or premise 2 in any way. So really, we're just dealing with sort of looking past that and recognizing that lines 1 and 2 are a modus ponens, which we can derive Q. And so that's what we would put in for 4. We would say Q, so that's our claim line, and then we have to justify it. So we would say lines 1 and lines 2, modus ponens. And that's how we do it. Okay, let's do another one. Oops. Okay, so here's another question. What can be derived, what can be logically derived from our 3 premises, right? So we've got premise 1, if P then Q. Line 2 contains premise 2, negated P. Line 3, R or P. So we've got a couple of options here, and when we do this, we should be thinking of the strategies. So when I see a conditional claim, I'm thinking modus ponens, modus tollens. But I've also got a disjunction here. And when I've got a disjunction, I want to be thinking, well, I might possibly be able to use the disjunctive syllogism here. So let's try the first one. Let's see if we can derive something using modus ponens or modus tollens. So we've got the conditional if P then Q, and the negated antecedent. You'll notice over here that neither of these have the negated antecedent. P isn't negated. Only the modus tollens works with a negation, but the negation applies to the consequent. So I don't think the conditional is going to help me out very much. So let's go to the disjunction. Our disjunction says you've got either R or P is true or both are true. Well, look at line 2. Line 2 is the negation of the right disjunct. So we can use the rule of inference of the disjunctive syllogism to derive R. So we write the claim in line 4, and then the next line over is going to be our justification. So we give the lines 2 and 3 and D, S for disjunctive syllogism. Let's do another one. Here's our next derivation problem. This one's a little bit longer, a little bit more complicated, a few more things to consider, but the basic rules of inference will apply here too. So here, the question is, what can be logically derived from the given premises, that is, lines 1, 2, 3, and 4? Given that those are true, what else can be derived logically, just by the rules of logic? So we've got a couple of options here. It looks like with row 1 and row 2, premise 1 and premise 2 here, they're both conditionals. And then rows 3 and 4 have some letters that refer to those conditionals. So we've either got a hypothetical syllogism, a modus ponens, or a modus tollens as possible ways to derive something else from the given set of premises here. Well, you'll notice that the hypothetical syllogism works like a chain. You'll notice that the Q here is that middle link connecting P to Q and then Q to R. And so that Q is going to connect like a little chain. If that's P and that's Q, well, that connects to R. So we're able to get from if P then Q and if Q then R, we're able to logically derive if P then R. It's a hypothetical syllogism. You'll notice that it doesn't have that shape. It doesn't have that middle linking chain here for either of these. So hypothetical syllogism isn't going to help us here. Well, what about modus ponens, right? Modus ponens has that form of if P then Q, it affirms the antecedent, and then you get the consequent, right? If rain then clouds, well, we have rain, therefore we know for sure that we have clouds. Well, we've got our negated P, and P is the antecedent, so that's not going to help. That's not going to work for a modus ponens. So maybe what we've got here is a modus tollens. So if that's the case, we want to look at the consequent of each conditional and see how it lines up with our other two premises here. Well, the modus tollens negates the consequent. So it looks like between rows 2 and 4, we're able to derive R using the rule of inference modus tollens, right? So modus tollens is over here. If P then Q, and if we have negated Q, which is the negated consequence, then we're going to get the negated antecedent. Again, if rain, then clouds, no clouds, therefore no rain. So no rain logically derives from those two given premises. So we're able to get, oops, that's not what I wanted, negated R logically derives, and our justification is rows 2 and 4 using the rule of inference, modus tollens. So that's how you use some of these. You're going to want to be strategic. You're going to want to look for signs like conditionals or disjunctions to try to help you figure out what rules might apply here. But just like the other skills in the class, this is going to take a lot of practice. So you're really able to get into being able to see this much more clearly when you look at it, rather than having to go step by step, kind of like I did. That's how you'll start, but eventually you'll start to be able to recognize, like in this case, oh, I can see row 2 is a premise, row 4 negates that consequent, which you can derive the negated antecedent, and that's what you can logically derive. Now notice a lot of this is unuseful to us in terms of being able to derive a claim. So a lot of, so rows 3 is going to be irrelevant. Row 1 is going to be irrelevant in terms of what you can derive from the set, the whole set of 1 through 4.